What if heaven has been preparing a hidden plan right in front of us, yet most of us never noticed? In a world dimmed by confusion and exhaustion, a strange light has begun to rise again among the young. And at the center of this unexpected awakening stands a quiet teenager whose life now speaks louder than ever. Some say coincidence, others sense a pattern only God could weave. Before we go further, share a simple prayer in the comments. Lord, awaken my heart today. It helps this message reach many more souls. Stay until the very end, because what unfolds here may change the way you see grace in our time. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Living Catholic Faith every day for more content like this. While many adults quietly drift away from the church, something unexpected is unfolding among the youngest generation. Behind headlines of decline, surveys now reveal a surprising surge of faith among those born with smartphones in their hands. These are the sons and daughters who grew up hearing that God was outdated, irrelevant, or unnecessary. Yet somehow, they are the ones turning back. It is as if, in the very moment the culture dims the lights, heaven chooses to ignite them in unexpected places. Not through noise, nor through force, but through a steady flame that refuses to die out. You can sense it, a restlessness, a hunger, a gentle return to what many thought had been abandoned. This is the world Carlo Acutis was born into, an age of confusion where God quietly planted a sign. And the more we look at his story, the more it feels as if heaven was preparing a response long before anyone realized a response was needed. Long before anyone spoke Carlo's name, the first signs had already appeared. Quiet, unsettling, almost impossible to ignore once you look back. At just 4 years old, he told his mother he had seen his deceased grandfather. Not in a dream, not in a childish fantasy. He spoke with the clarity of someone who had witnessed something real. He asked me to pray for him. He is in purgatory. From that moment, Carlo prayed daily for the souls of the departed, as if he already understood the weight of mercy. And while his home was not especially devout, Carlo insisted on attending Mass every single day. Others his age clung to toys. Carlo clung to the Eucharist. He walked with a certainty that did not match his years, moving with the simplicity of a child, yet the focus of someone being quietly formed. These early moments were not dramatic, yet they carried a pattern, small threads that only make sense when woven together. It was as though heaven was already tracing the outline of a mission long before Carlo could speak of it. And those near him sensed that something invisible was guiding him, even if no one dared name it yet. When Carlo was only 4.5, something happened that no one in his family could explain. During a visit to the shrine of Our Lady of Pompeii, he slipped away from his parents, walked toward the altar, knelt down, and quietly consecrated himself to the Virgin Mary. No one had taught him how. No one had even suggested it. Yet he acted with the solemn confidence of someone responding to a call he already knew. From that day on, the symbol of a lamb began to follow him in ways too curious to dismiss. On the road toward his first communion, he saw a shepherd carrying a lamb and felt it was meant for him. At home, the image appeared again. A toy chosen without thought. A cake shaped like a lamb, prepared by his mother who had no idea why she picked it. Small details, but unsettling in their repetition. Years later, those around him would look back and understand. The lamb had been pointing, quietly and persistently, toward a mission marked by innocence and sacrifice. Carlo himself once said he wanted to remain always united to Jesus, as if the signs surrounding him were gentle reminders of the path heaven had already traced. Not long before Carlo fell ill, his mother experienced a dream she could not shake. She saw her son leaving, not in despair, not in terror, but with a strange sense of mission, as though his departure was part of something larger than loss. Soon after, Carlo himself sensed it too. He spoke of dying young with a peace that unsettled those who heard him. "When I reach 70 kilos, he quietly told his mother, I will die. And when the day came, that is exactly what happened. There was another dream, one she only understood later. a lamb, wounded and bleeding, standing alone. At the time, it made no sense. Only after Carlo's passing did the meaning settle like a weight on her heart. The signs had been there long before the sickness appeared. Heaven had whispered what was coming, not to frighten, but to prepare. And through it all, Carlo never panicked. He did not cling to life with fear. He walked toward what awaited him, as one who trusted entirely in the one he loved. After Carlo's death, the quiet mystery surrounding his life did not fade. Instead, it deepened. His mother began experiencing moments she struggled to describe. Visions of St. Francis of Assisi speaking about her son, guiding her gently toward understanding what Carlo's mission had truly been. These encounters did not demand belief, nor did they seek attention. They simply echoed the pattern that had followed Carlo from childhood. Heaven speaking softly, never forcing itself. What mattered more than any vision were the fruits that emerged. People who had drifted from faith found themselves praying again. Hearts that had grown cold began to thaw in front of the Eucharist. Young men and women who had abandoned the church felt an unexpected pull back home, often without knowing why. It was as if Carlo's absence carried a strange presence, one that touched lives long after he left this world. Not every sign demands explanation. Some simply invite us to look more carefully at what grace can do when a soul is truly given to God. Years before anyone spoke of Carlo's holiness, Heaven placed someone in his home who would become his first silent guide. Her name was Beata Persinska, a young Polish woman hired simply as a caretaker, nothing more. She was not chosen for her piety. She was chosen through an ordinary agency in Milan, a decision that seemed purely practical. Yet her presence would mark the beginning of Carlo's spiritual formation. Beata prayed with a sincerity that drew little attention, but Carlo watched her closely. He saw how she knelt before the Blessed Sacrament. He heard the soft rhythm of her Polish prayers, and without being instructed, he began to imitate her. She taught him the gestures of reverence, the simplicity of talking to God as a friend, the beauty of kneeling, not out of fear, but out of love. Later, Beata would say something few expected. That child was touched by God. And when she finally left the household, she added words that lingered like a quiet prophecy. Carlo is already marked for God. Most children would drift back into ordinary life once their caretaker moved on. But Carlo did the opposite. What had begun in him through Beata did not fade. It intensified, as if she had only awakened what heaven had already planted. When Beata left, most would have expected Carlo's devotion to settle into something ordinary. Instead, heaven introduced a second figure, unexpected, unlikely, and spiritually distant. His name was Rajesh Moore, a young Hindu from a Brahmin family who had come to Italy for work. He knew nothing about Christ, nothing about the church, nothing about the faith Carlo breathed so naturally. He entered the Acutis home for one reason only: to help with household tasks. But living beside Carlo changed everything. Rajesh noticed details that others dismissed. The boy's quiet insistence on daily mass, the rosary prayed not with strain, but with the ease of someone speaking to someone real. The way Carlo treated the poor, as if each person carried a dignity the world had forgotten. And above all, the peace, a peace that lingered in the home, subtle yet unmistakable, tied somehow to the presence of this 14-year-old who lived as though he could see the invisible. Rajesh later said that what struck him was not preaching, arguments, or explanations. It was atmosphere. Something spiritual moved in that house, and it radiated from Carlo. The more he watched, the more it unsettled him, not with fear, but with a longing he had never experienced. His questions deepened, his heart stirred, and a quiet search began within him. He didn't know it then, but he was already being drawn toward the God he had never met. 3 years passed, and the quiet witness of Carlo's life continued to press upon Rajesh. Nothing dramatic, no long theological debates, no pressure. Just a boy who lived as though Christ were standing beside him. The atmosphere of that home, its peace, its reverence, its strange clarity, worked more deeply than any sermon could have. And slowly, something in Rajesh began to bend toward the light. Then came the moment no one expected. In 1999, The same year Carlo was only 8, Rajesh asked to receive baptism. Not later, not after years of instruction. He asked for baptism, confirmation, and first communion, all on the same day. And when asked why, his answer was disarming in its simplicity. "I saw Christ in that child." The ripple didn't stop there. Rajesh's mother traveled from Mauritius to visit her son, curious about what had changed him. Carlo welcomed her with the same gentleness he offered everyone. He took her to Mass. He spoke to her in English about Jesus and Our Lady of Lourdes. The family helped her visit Lourdes itself, and upon returning home, she too asked for baptism. A boy of 8 had already borne fruit in adults from another culture, another faith, another world entirely. No programs, no strategies, just holiness, quiet, steady, and unmistakably real. Some lives do not need to travel far to evangelize the nations. They simply need to shine where God places them. In October of 2006, Carlo began to feel an exhaustion that seemed out of place for someone so young. Bruises appeared. Pain spread. His strength faded without warning. Doctors soon delivered the diagnosis his mother feared, but Carlo faced with unsettling calm. Acute, aggressive leukemia. A sickness that moved quickly, leaving very little time. Yet even here, Carlo did not waver. There was no desperation in him, no complaint, no, "Why me?" Instead, he offered everything, every ache, every drop of suffering, for the Pope and for the Church. He wanted nothing wasted, nothing lost. Those who visited him said he spoke almost entirely about Jesus in the Eucharist, as if his body was weakening, but his gaze was sharpening toward the one he loved most. Nurses recalled that he encouraged them when they came to encourage him. Doctors testified that he never lost his peace. His faith carried a clarity that pierced the heaviness of the hospital room. And as his final hours approached, he asked for only 2 things: confession and Holy Communion. The essentials, the heart of everything he believed. On October 12th, the feast of Our Lady of the Pillar, Carlo surrendered his life, not with fear, but with the same gentle trust he had carried since childhood. He had prayed to bypass purgatory and go straight to heaven, not out of pride, but out of love. And many who saw him in those last hours believed that heaven had already begun drawing near. After Carlo's passing, the mystery surrounding his life did not end. It intensified. He had once told his mother, "I won't give you one sign. I'll give you many." And soon, people from different places, different ages, different stories, began to speak of encounters they could not explain. An elderly woman named Faustina said she saw Carlo during Eucharistic adoration, wearing a red shirt, standing quietly, as though in prayer beside her. Young people caught in addictions found sudden strength to break free after learning about his life. Others returned to Mass after years away, moved simply by the sight of his smiling face. One teenager said that kneeling before the Blessed Sacrament felt easier because Carlo did it first. Even priests were shaken. One Italian priest recounted seeing Carlo's picture and feeling as though something struck his heart, an interior jolt that forced him to confront his own lukewarmness. He returned to the Rosary. He returned to Eucharistic prayer. He returned to the simplicity of devotion he had forgotten. A funeral worker described preparing Carlo's body and being overwhelmed by a deep, unexpected peace, so powerful that he began praying again after years of silence. And as more testimonies surfaced, a pattern emerged. Wherever Carlo's story passed, something awakened, a spark, a stirring, a quiet return to God. Holiness does not end at the grave. Sometimes it begins there. Across several countries, the numbers began telling a story few expected. While many older generations quietly loosened their grip on faith, something different, almost inverted, was happening among the young. Generation Z, the very group predicted to abandon religion entirely, was instead showing the first signs of spiritual return. Confessions rising, Eucharistic adoration filling, a hunger reappearing where the culture had promised only emptiness. Some called it coincidence. Others called it optimism. But those who had watched Carlo's life unfold could not help noticing the timing. His witness, his story, and the grace that followed him began spreading precisely as this youthful spark re-emerged. It was as though heaven had planted a light years earlier, hidden in a teenager, waiting for the moment darkness would deepen enough for people to notice its glow. Not everyone sees these patterns. Not everyone wants to. But once you do, it becomes difficult to look away. Faith does not always rise where we expect. Sometimes God begins with the young to remind the world that He has not abandoned it. Looking back, the pieces begin to align in a way that feels almost deliberate. A mother unexpectedly touched by grace in Assisi. A child drawn to prayer long before he understood its depth. Two caretakers, one devout, one unbelieving, placed beside him at exactly the right moments. Conversions that bloomed without a single sermon. And a teenager who walked towards suffering with the serenity of someone who had already given everything. This was not a life built on chance. What is coming to light now is not a secret message or a dramatic prophecy, but a pattern, quiet, consistent, unmistakably shaped by God. Carlo's mission was never about miracles alone. It was about awakening something dormant in the hearts of the young, reminding a troubled world that holiness is not a relic of the past, but a path still open, still possible, still burning. And as more people discover his story, the plan hidden within his short life becomes clearer. Grace was preparing him long before the rest of us realized we would need him. Carlo's life shines now with a clarity the world once overlooked. His simplicity, his purity, his quiet fire. All of it reminds us that God still raises saints for our darkest hours. If his story stirred something in you, stay close to that spark. Like, share, and subscribe to Living Catholic Faith every day so this light can reach more souls. And leave a short prayer in the comments. Lord, awaken faith in my family today. If you've ever seen grace move quietly around you, your comment may help another heart return. See you in the next video as we continue uncovering the signs God is placing in our time.